Every e-commerce platform now seems to have an AI story. They can generate content, adjust bids, analyze data, monitor inventory, execute thousands of actions faster than us, and probably make you an espresso here pretty soon, at least if you're going to believe all the hype. But activity is not the same as performance. Today, I think we're going to be asking a more difficult question, and that is AI actually making e-commerce business more profitable, or are we simply automating more work? Welcome to Beyond the Cart, a show where we explore the strategies, technology, and customer experiences shaping the future of e-commerce. I am your host, Kyle Hamer. And today I'm joined by Sai Koppala, Chief Marketing Officer at Commerce IQ. Sai brings more than 20 years of experience across marketing, product strategy, technology. Before Commerce IQ, you were Chief Marketing and Strategy Officer at SheerID and held leadership roles at Apigee, which was acquired by Google, as well as SAP. And he co-founded Talent Cove. And so, Sai, welcome to the show. We're excited to have you, and it's going to be a great conversation.
Thanks, Kyle, for having me. Looking forward to this.
Love it. I mean, so before we define AI, agentic AI, or talk about what technology could eventually do, I want to begin with something concrete. And my question is like, what's one decision like an e-commerce team is making differently today because an AI agent is involved?
I think the biggest thing any e-commerce team is thinking about right now is how are consumers discovering my products? So what we do with most of the brands, and most of the brands today, by the way, a lot of the CPG brands we work with, they sell their products to retailers. Like most of, despite when you say e-commerce, most people think of D2C websites, but most of revenue is actually driving through retailer websites. So the biggest change is with the advent of AI, how consumer behavior is changing. Consumers are actually searching through their chat GPT or Claude on whatever, hey, I'm for Cinco de Mayo, I'm trying to build, I'm trying to cook something. What do you recommend, right? And it recommends some brand. So the biggest thing brands are thinking about is how do I make sure my brand, think of it as a new channel, a new way consumers are searching for content. How do I make sure my content, which is sitting on an Amazon website, let's say the PDP, shows up and I get that traffic, right? So that is the big change that we're seeing in the last year or so. That is making brands rethink, how do I optimize my content so that I'm getting the traffic?
Yeah.
Right. And that has a direct link to your performance. And this is only going to get more and more traffic coming through that channel, right?
For sure.
That's what we're doing.
So do you think discoverability is one of the biggest sort of AI leaps for e-commerce teams to be thinking about?
That's one, right? So that's one change. The other thing we're seeing is this has been happening for a while. Amazon has been at the forefront of it, using algorithms to decide, bid prices, search rankings, and variety of things. On the other hand, brands are still catching up, and you see more and more. Walmart is also using a lot more of these things. A lot of the retailers are using algorithms and AI to make decisions that are impacting brands. So how do you as a brand use AI to go toe-to-toe with your retailer? So as a brand, I'm getting hit on from two sides. One, discoverability from a consumer perspective because they're using AI. On the other side, all my retailers are using AI to optimize. How do I make sure my brand still has got a bigger share of search? And how do I make sure I'm optimizing my retail media bids so that I'm getting most incremental sales for every dollar I spend?
Love it. No, that's awesome. And that's a good transition into our first topic, which is how agentic AI is changing the e-commerce growth strategy. You sort of made the distinction between agentic commerce, sort of the AI tools shoppers use, and agentic retail, sort of the AI systems brand uses to operate, right? So there's two different ways to think about AI. It's like discoverability, so the tools that shoppers are using, and then the actual like systems that they're using to operate. How does that distinction sort of change the growth strategy for an e-commerce company, in your opinion?
Yeah, if I can take a minute to just, if you look at 4 or 5 years ago, there has been AI, machine learning, and all of these tools out there. Not necessarily the way
Sure.
it's captured an imagination through generative AI. So a lot of the efforts of the brands were focused on was, okay, understanding what happened, right? First of all, understanding what
Mhm.
happened. That was essentially used dashboards and variety of things where
Right.
we were, if you go back to 3, 4, 4 years ago. And then the next question was, okay, it's not just what happened, why did it happen,
Mhm.
right? Um, but now it's more about, so you had data, you had dashboards, and you had insights, but now it's more about, okay, what should I do? How should I act?
Right.
So a lot of agentic AI is around automating workflows for e-commerce teams. Things that are repetitive, things that if AI is given enough context, it understands, for example, the brand guidelines,
Mhm.
the legal guidelines, as well as the retailer context, what retailer cares about, and category. How are people searching for terms in a particular category? If that can
Mhm.
all be fed into AI, it can actually do a lot of those decisions, right? Whether
Sure.
it's optimizing content or whether it's bidding on the right keywords and things like that. So agentic AI is about, in the commerce world, is about automating workflows so that
Mhm.
the teams are, most e-commerce teams are really strapped. They don't have many more resources. So how do you make those teams superhuman? And that's how AI can
Mhm.
help them be a lot more productive.
No, I love it. It's a good question by Jesse, because do you think brands run the risk of outsourcing discoverability through AI? I mean, it's already kind of happening. It's not something you can really necessarily control, right? Because if it's already, if the shopping behaviors move to using these AI tools for discoverability, like, you already have that occurring. But do you feel like there is any risk that, sort of like the chat GPTs and the Claudes and the co-pilots of the world sort of take that discoverability away from,
I
say,
don't,
the brand experience on their website?
I don't think so. It's just like how when Google was there, people are saying, "Oh, everything Google is going to do, run everything." But at the end of the day,
Yeah,
people start optimizing for search on Google. More
sure.
specific, the bigger challenge I'm seeing with brands today is internal. Who
Yeah,
owns discoverability internally, right?
sure.
The challenge is, if I'm an e-commerce team, there's some of the centralized team that's got brand, it's a brand team, or there's a
Hmm.
centralized content team. And that's where the bigger challenge is,
Yeah.
who owns discoverability within the brand.
Yeah,
Right?
that's a good call out. Like,
Uh,
what happens? Like, the question I think becomes, what happens when if consumer facing agents, right, are evolving faster than the brand's internal systems or agents or processes, and who's sort of managing that
so
pace?
that's where it's comes down to what's your core competence, right? The brand's core competence is understanding consumer attitudes and building products, and selling them. So that's where we are in the business of building. Our expertise all is around AI and agents, right? So we are partnering with brands to help them use AI to help them on their discoverability journey. How can you
Yeah,
improve your product discoverability uh, for you within your category across different retailers? And that's what we're focused on.
yeah,
And
that
part of
makes
that is
sense.
around not just identifying what your visibility today is, but how do you improve it? And that's
Right.
where the content workflows come in. How can I optimize your content so that it is discoverable for the types of questions people are asking
Mhm.
in your category?
Yeah, so it seems like, take Amazon for example. I mean, talk about retailers. It's the largest on the planet, or one of them. And retailers have, I mean, brands have sort of, well, retailers, let's use that specifically. Retailers have already automated a lot of those search rankings, right? And buy box decisions,
Mhm.
pricing signals, advertising auctions, all of that's machine learning. Does that mean, do you think brands now need their own agents simply to compete on those
Yes.
platforms? Because it's like essentially agents and AI running discoverability. Now you need your own set of agents and algorithms to kind of communicate in a language that these systems understand.
And that is where the biggest opportunity for brands is to be a lot more optimized, right? Because on one side, you have retailers who are automating a lot of these decisions. And on the other side, you have brands with really small, amazing teams, but really small teams that have made lots of decisions. So you have to adopt AI to help these teams succeed, or at least level the playing field with respect to the retailers.
Yeah, because what happens to brands that remain dependent on weekly reports only and aren't adapting in real time?
And that's where you lose the share to your competitor who's already adopted AI. Like, let me give you an example, right? Like in Amazon, for some reason, let's say they suppressed your listing on a Sunday morning. For a variety of reasons, it can happen. Typically, what happens is in a couple of days, the content team or somebody in my digital shelf team identifies that, looks like this has been suppressed. Or looks like, then they give you a reason. Here's the content you need to change, the description or whatever you need to change, or add additional picture or whatever it is, right? And then the content goes up. There's a separate team which goes and in the region, usually, especially in a global CPG, in the region, has to go create the content and then send it to the retailer, and then the retailer updates it. That whole process can take a week.
Sure.
Right? On the other hand, if you are using an AI agent, it can detect that, hey, one of your SKUs has been suppressed, identifies what the challenge is, provides a fix, recommendation. Now, in our customer base, we have a human in the loop, but you can also, after some time you're comfortable, you can let AI automate the whole thing. And then once it's accepted, the change is accepted, we can push it directly to Amazon. All matter of seconds, right? So that's what we can do, right? So it is important for brands to figure out how best to take advantage of AI, just to be not necessarily to reduce your team size, but teams are already strapped. There's so many.
Sure.
It's more, how do you make your teams, I like to say, superhuman? And that's where I see AI really coming in, helping these teams.
It's all about closing the feedback loop, because most of these systems all require feedback. And I think shrinking execution timelines and getting that data faster, allowing you to iterate, it becomes one of the key wins, I think, that AI lets you do. One question for you: how do you distinguish a real agent from, say, like an advanced rules-based automation with an AI label attached to it? Because sometimes with like AI, they just like throw AI on it, but it's really just a rules-based automation. Like, what's your opinion about the distinction between real agent versus just rule-based automation?
It's ability to make independent decisions, right? Which are of situations where it hasn't seen before.
Yeah.
Right? Rules-based are very much, it's basically based on what you've done already in the past. In our world, increasingly, if you want to really scale up, let me give you a concrete example. We work with Newell brands, and they have thousands of SKUs. And if for particular seasonal, let's say Father's Day or anything like that, if I want to make a specific update, because I know if I make that update to season, because it helps when somebody's searching Father's Day gift or whatever, right? I want this brand to show up. I need to make change to the content. Now, it's humanly, it takes a lot, impossible or costs too much to go change across a lot of my SKUs, right?
Sure.
So if AI can do that for you, and it only knows to know the context, it can make decisions irrespective of how many SKUs you show it to, right? So it's not rules based that way. It needs to understand the context in terms of what are people searching for, what are your brand guidelines, what are the legal claims you can make or you should not make, do's and don'ts. All those things the human is making, if that is fed into AI, and that's the feedback loop. So what happens typically is somebody asks this question, where's the human in the loop? Human is always in the loop in the beginning. And they are reading the response, recommendation, yes or no, good or not, right? So what we realized in the first week or so, the human was in the loop. And they say, yeah, okay, this is good, this is good. And suddenly the quality of the recommendations gets so much better. At some point, you can automate it, right? So 95% of those decisions are automated right now.
Yep. Yeah, that
So
makes a ton of
that's what
sense. A lot of AI strategy still begins with the technology, meaning we bought an AI platform. Now, where can we use it? Right? Like, what do we do with it? What should maybe the sequence be instead? Like, should you start first and foremost with business problem or a P&L problem or specific use case and then move to an AI platform? Or what's your take on that?
Yeah, of course. Look, I mean, because AI is a fad, everyone's saying AI,
Yeah.
there's a lot. And frankly, there's also not just the vendors, like it's also within the brands itself, there's pressure from top down. Hey, how are you adopting AI? Show me what you're doing with AI. So there's a lot of pressure to just do an AI project, an AI pilot. And usually, there's all kinds of stats out there saying that 90% of them fail. You always want to start with the business problem and the use case where you think AI can be most effective, where you're really, there's a lot of manual work, repetitive work, and that's one. And also where most bang for the buck. If I can automate this across all my SKUs, or if I can do more of these actions, can it drive better revenue outcome?
For sure.
Right? So the two places where we have seen and where we've seen the most success, we've tried variety of things, is two aspects have been on one on the retail media side. How do I optimize the media spend I have? I have a limited retail media spend for the year. How do I optimize that to drive the most incremental sales, right? So what that means is, in our case, for example, we'll do like 4,000 optimizations a day, and typically humans and agencies will do maybe up to 100, maybe, right?
Yeah.
So those kind of things, and the reason you do that optimization is, if you're already showing up well organically, well, don't need to spend so much money on those keywords. You can divert those keywords, the spend towards a longer tail keywords or different phrases, right? So that's how you can truly drive, incremental sales, but you can't do it manually on this point. I mean, you're doing 4,000 optimizations a day. These are all micro optimizations that you're doing, right? That's one example. I'd be fine. It's repetitive. You're just doing different bits. You're looking at different keywords or different phrases. All of that's ideal spot for that. Other one is, I was already talking to you about, was the content, especially in these days of discoverability. How to improve my search ranking or share of search. It's content. It's optimizing, like how SEO, similar to SEO, right? You optimize your content. It can get laborious after some time. That's something you can optimize across all your SKUs for a different for a particular category, for a particular seasonal moment, right? Those kind of things are where we're seeing the most uptake.
Yeah, that makes sense. Here's a question for you. Do you think AI can make poorly managed e-com organizations worse by allowing it to execute a bad strategy faster and at greater scale?
Sure. If you don't, it's a powerful tool,
right?
Which can go either way, right? If you don't give it, feed it proper context, brand context, suddenly you'll start seeing all kind of slop out there, right? So
accelerate poor decision making as well. Like,
so that's one of the reasons. One of the things we've realized is brands are very focused on their products and driving revenue. They're not thinking about AI every day.
Right.
That's one of the reasons what we realized. Unlike software, where you say, "Hey, here's a software, go use it to see how your business is doing," with AI, where you're driving actions, where you're actually doing actions on behalf of the brand, it's critical for us as vendors to deliver. So what we do is we partner with brands and deploy forward deployment engineers. We actually sit down side by side with the person who actually does the job today and understand how they're making decisions and feed the decisions into the AI system.
Yeah, love it. I think that's a smart way to approach that.
That is the biggest challenge in adoption of AI in enterprises, is everyone wants to adopt AI, but they don't know how to drive business value. So it's upon companies like us to make sure we are not just bringing our AI expertise, but putting our resources to bear along next to and side by side with the brand teams to make sure it is doing what it's supposed to be doing.
I love that. And I think that is a good segue into another topic of conversation around efficiency, cost savings, which you talked about with, media buying and sort of AI powered execution. So when companies say an AI tool saved their team, say hundreds of hours, that sounds impressive, but hours saved don't automatically appear in financial statements. Like, how should an operator convert time savings into a real business case, maybe for their leadership team?
Yeah, you're right. A lot of the times, time saved is it's cost avoidance, not really a cost reduction.
Yeah,
So it
that's a
won't
good
show
call out.
up. It won't
Yeah.
show up on your the way the, if we do this right, the way it has to show up, it has to show up uplift in revenue or an increase in your market share.
Yeah, it's a good
Those are
call
two
out.
things, right? Another one is I would say is where the cost efficiency we're seeing is a lot of brands use big agencies, which are very much human powered agencies.
Yep.
Where we're seeing is you can now do better, faster, and cheaper than an agency
Yeah,
with AI, right?
for
So
sure.
yes, you can potentially reduce your agency budget, which can improve your margin for sure.
100%. Take us through one workflow where the economic benefit of an AI agent is already clear. Like, it could be content management. You already talked about content a little bit. You talked about retail media some, but maybe like around maybe inventory or pricing or digital shelf on that execution. Like, where do you think is a workflow that has immediate impact with AI agent?
Yeah, means digital shelf and content almost go together, right?
Hand in
So
hand.
one of the
Yeah.
things that we are seeing is, if you typically what we've seen is if you have to go update a SKU on a retailer site, it's about 30
Sure.
minutes. Figuring out what
Yep.
should I say. You can still use an AI tool in the site to ChatGPT to say what the right thing to say. Go and update it. It takes about 30 minutes. With our systems, you can do it in 30 seconds with a human in the loop, right? So that's direct cost saving. Now, that's just time savings. The
Sure.
real value, what we're seeing is we're doing A/B testing. We allow customers to do A/B testing when, hey, we can have some set of SKUs updated, some not updated, and see what the impact is in terms of incremental sales, right? And what we've seen is if you optimize your content right way for search as well as for chatbots, AI chatbots, we have examples where we've seen a like 9 to 11% increase in the revenue for those SKUs. So we can show how improving your content improves discoverability, which increases traffic and conversion to drive more revenue. So
Awesome.
that's a clear example of where actually we can show you by A/B testing
Nice.
to show that, hey, there's clear value here you can see. And that's what
great.
there are way too many companies who are putting AI washing their products and pushing it. I mean, I encourage companies to do really, really short pilots. And if they're
Yep.
able to show clear value, business value, that's the AI you want to adopt.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. At what point does human in the loop become human in the way? Because we talked about keeping the human in the loop to make decisions, and you said, well, eventually you can kind of get it to where the AI agent can be somewhat autonomous. But are companies sort of tracking how often humans are approving the agent recommendations, or how fast they're implementing those things?
Yeah. When we were discussing, we were talking about Newell brands earlier. That's one of the metrics we are looking at. How
Nice.
often the intervention was there. What we saw is percentage of recommendations that were accepted and how that goes up. It's like a hockey stick curve. In the beginning, it was like 70%, suddenly like 98, 99% after 2 weeks,
Yeah.
right?
You're like, we
So-
don't really trust this thing. We're gonna test it out, and then they see the it's working. Like, oh, approve all.
Yeah, and so it once again the answer is it depends. I would say in complex decision making, human in the loop exists for much longer.
Sure.
But once you've figured out the scoped out the criteria and the context clearly, you don't need as much human in the loop. But having said that, look, the world is always a constantly changing dynamic place. There's always a black swan event. So you still want the ability to have the human in the loop. So what
Absolutely.
and also, frankly, what this helps teams do is do you really want to be in the loop on a manual execution step? Wouldn't you rather be spending more time on strategic um, um,
Yeah,
projects as well as
for sure.
decision making?
Yeah.
Where to invest and things like that. So that what this will do is, I'm seeing it in my own team. It frees me up to do more strategic thinking and decisions, and less on just execution.
Love it. No, that makes sense. Based on your experience beyond strategy, are there any other actions that you would always say, oh, this always requires human in the loop of approval?
Any kind of strategic decisions is always human.
Sure.
That's one thing I would say is in any big decisions, right? That's where human, or there is a lot of taste and judgment. So what AI is not necessarily good at right now is on taste and judgment, taste,
Yeah.
especially, right? So that's where you need a lot of human in the loop. But it's a repetitious thing where if it's doing the right thing for the first 10 things, it can do the right thing for the next 100 things. In those cases, you don't need a human in the loop, right?
That makes sense.
But when you're creating a new campaign, well, you need taste and judgment. And that's where, yes, AI can come back with multiple options, but you need an experienced human to say, I would rather go with this one because of the variety of context, which is not understood by AI.
That makes a ton of sense. Based on your experience, what's the most common hidden cost of AI implementation? You think it is like data or data prep or integrations or employee training? Like, where do you think is like the thing that people miss the most when it comes to it?
The biggest is around data. Like, it's garbage in, garbage
sure.
out, right?
100%.
A lot of companies still have such siloed data that unless you have access to that data, it's a lot of the work that goes around is integrating that data. One of the reasons we have been successful is we have a unified data platform that ties in your sales data, the shelf data, the retail media data all together, pulls together from a retailer to help us give a more 360 visibility in terms of the brand's performance. So that's data as one piece of it. The second one I mentioned earlier was closing the loop between, basically how do I make the AI system understand your business better?
Yeah.
And that's where you need forward deployment engineers. That's become the buzzword in the industry. But truly, you need a person who understands AI tech, but also understands your business by sitting with you, next to you, understanding your business, how you make decisions, and feeds into the AI system, at least initially, right? So once it gets going, then the positive cycle goes on, where with a positive feedback loop comes about, where every time a decision is made, if you're accepting the decision, then AI understands, okay, how you make decisions. So those are two things I would say in terms of adoption of AI in the enterprise. One is data. The second is feeding context to the AI engine. So you need humans from the AI companies working closely with the brand teams.
That makes sense. Do you have an example where an AI implementation did not initially create efficiency or performance improvement that the customer experienced or expected? And feel free to change the names to protect the innocent, because you don't want to dox anybody, but like if it was a bad AI implementation that you're like, ugh, that didn't really go that great.
Yeah, look, this is a pretty nascent industry still. We've been talking AI we're probably less than a year into this journey, right? Early on, we will realize that if we don't feed in from all the brands we work with, we fed in all the brand context and everything, but then we were told like, well, your AI is splitting something you should not be saying. Well, but it looks really good. It's saying made in the USA or whatever, right? Like, no, we cannot claim that. Our legal guidelines say you should not claim whatever the thing was. So, well, we didn't know that legal guidelines or something that we fed into it, right? So it all comes down to data and context, right? There's nothing magical about this. Once AI system has enough context of how decisions are made within your organization and has enough data, accurate data, it can make decisions, right? So A lot of the mishaps that happen are around those two topics. Either you don't have clean data, or you haven't fed enough context about how decisions are made within your company. That is causing the challenges.
Yeah, I love it. So, so Commerce IQ has discussed, I think, on your website and different things, examples where brands generated sort of major increases in incremental return on ad spend. I think one specifically was an auto care brand that was tripling traffic and increasing sales by something like 200% without increasing media spend. I think that was a case study that you'd had on there. So tell us a little bit, like how did you isolate the contribution of AI to that particular case study?
Yeah. So this goes back to the 4,000 optimizations a day I'm talking about, right? So what's happening is, typically, if you're using a human-based agency, right, what they would do is they'll say, in this category, here are all the top 20 keywords, guys, and let's optimize for those keywords.
Mm-hmm.
Where we are focused more on is, hey, how are you doing on those top 20 keywords? Forget top 20, top 200 keywords or top 500 keywords in your category. How are you doing organically without any spend? If you're already doing well on the top 20 keywords, let's not waste money on those top 20 keywords. Let's focus on the longer tail keywords. Those conditions have to be done by AI. It's very difficult for human to go through. So what you're doing is a lot of long tail keyword optimizations. So that way, on terms where you're not doing well organically, you're spending the money incrementally on those. And that's what the incremental revenue we're talking about is. If you're going to spend on keywords you're already doing well, that's not really incremental. You're already getting the revenue. You don't need to go sponsor another ad when you already own 6 of the 9 boxes at the top.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So that's where, when you're seeing phenomenal improvement, it's because you have the technology. The AI agent is now able to see not just the top 20, but the top hundreds of keywords in your category or phrases in your category, and decide where should we bet the next dollar on, which is truly incremental compared to your organic placement today.
Sure. And I think that's actually kind of layered into this question. It's like, what is the difference between attributed AI result and incremental AI result? Right? Because you can kind of look at it, it's like, oh, I can attribute this to AI, but what you're talking about is we're going to measure actual incremental growth from our agents and from the AI activity that we're doing.
Attribution is a funny game. So
it's a little bit like this. That one.
Hey, I'm in marketing. I know people always ask me, okay, which channel contributed what revenue? I said multi-touch attribution. So that's the reason I was talking earlier, Carl, about, one of the things we want to deploy, especially on the what we're doing with the content, is I want to show A/B testing. So you can decide for yourself. You're going to take some SKUs and make it AI, some not AI optimized, and you can see the difference. And that'll tell you what is incremental versus not. And the same thing we did with one of the top 5 tech brands in the world. We did a side-by-side testing. Here is your existing vendor and agency using, and we'll run a campaign side by side. And they found a 7% lift, right? So you have to do side by side or A/B testing for you to know what's truly incremental. And that's where I would invest AI dollars first. Sure. Otherwise, it's soft, right? Yes, you're adopting AI, but is it really driving business results?
Yeah, no, I love that. So follow-up question to that is, if you could put 3 AI performance metrics on your CEO's dashboard, which 3 metrics would you lean into as a marketer?
First of all, AI performance is business performance. I would not say
100%. 100%.
So,
yeah.
AI is a mechanism. It's a tool. I would not say it's an AI performance. What is the business performance results of this project, which uses AI?
100%. That was the answer I was hoping you were going to give. I 100% agree with you. Yeah. It's like it's funny because I would tell people it's kind of like this. It's like you wouldn't tell people that you're an internet-based business, right? Like, I'm an internet-based business. Every business uses the internet. Every business is going to have a use case for AI, right? Like, it's not like I'm AI first or I'm an AI business. It's like, oh, duh. Like, if you use AI and the internet, you're going to use them both together. What is the business outcome that you're measuring, and then how do you use this tool effectively?
This is the trap we can't fall into, because you can see from my gray hairs, I was there around the 2001 timeframe. People are coming with, how do I measure the value of this business? Why it's worth billions of dollars? Oh, maybe we should measure eyeballs or whatever. Some random, thing. Everything fell, crashed, right? So we ended let's not lose focus. We're running a business. The business metrics that were valid 5 years ago are still valid. It's just, can you use an amazing technology like AI to either improve your regular business metric? Can it increase traffic? Can it increase, can it improve your conversion? Those are the kind of things, and of course, drive incremental revenue. I would still focus on those.
Yeah.
And that's what I would use also to determine which AI project should I take on.
Sure. Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. And I think, like, for larger CPG brands that have big catalogs, right? Like, the use case for AI becomes really clear, right? There's just not enough time for a person to manually go through and make all these edits. But let's break this down. Let's go a little, like, small to mid-market application. Maybe you're a smaller operator and maybe you're doing a few million and, a couple to 20 million a year annual revenue, and maybe you don't have a massive, huge catalog. What does agentic AI create the clearest return for them today, in your opinion?
I'm not the best expert on that, because we have been mostly focused on larger companies, 300 million above.
Sure.
Because that's where the challenges are bigger. The scale is the biggest challenge.
Do you think there are any principles? Do you think there's any principles that a small and mid-market company could take from your work with the larger CPGs?
It's more around, how fast you're responding to what the retailer is doing. It's more on that side of the world, right? Another one also is, you could be a small retailer, but you're still optimizing your content for AI chatbots is still very relevant. Now, does that require, if you only have 5 SKUs, let's say, do I need an AI agent for that? Probably not.
Yeah.
So even though I'm in the Valley, I'm actually late adopter of technologies. I only adopt it actually going to make business sense. So I think the jury is out on, if you have 10, 20 SKUs, don't rush to adopt AI unless you have a clear business rationale for it.
And I think that goes back to your original.
More on the larger, if I have like 500 SKUs and I'm operating in 25 retailers in the US alone, that's where the challenges come in. And also I'm spending millions of dollars on retail media spend, and most of the time I'm not seeing the return on ad spend as well as I would like to see. How can I optimize that? That's where I'm seeing, it's essentially taking actions and decisions at scale is where AI can help.
Yeah, I love that. What is one AI-related investment that e-com leaders are likely to regret making over the next 2 years? Or one that they're likely regret not making, as the flip side of that question.
By the way, one thing I'm seeing actually, it's more relevant to the D2C brands, is on the chatbots on their D2C brands. I'm seeing a huge value. Yeah. I'm seeing brands gain. What I'm hearing from the market, where having instead of having to navigate the entire site, having a chatbot that helps me navigate quickly and gets me the answers what I want and links me. That is, people are seeing good results on that. Whether it's not just customer support, but discoverability of where products are D2C site is something where it has been helpful.
I literally saw an ad for a platform. I don't remember what it is off the top of my head, but it was basically an e-com platform, like a competitor Shopify. But the entire premise of it was AI chat powered first. It's like have a conversation. The landing page was literally like an AI conversation for discoverability, and it was just making product recommendations based on the questions and context that had about it. It was a super interesting idea. I have no idea if it's going to take off. Some version of it probably will, but I don't even remember the name of the word.
You bring up a good point, Carl. I think there's a lot of people pushing for that, saying that, hey, we don't need the UI has completely changed. We don't need a whole UI. We just need a chatbot.
That was their premise.
That is one of the big assumptions underneath that is consumer behavior is completely going to shift that way. I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. If it does, yes. But if it doesn't, there's still, because people always in the tech space overestimate how fast people change.
For sure.
Yeah, right. So I'm not 100% convinced everyone's going to go to chatbot route. There's still people want to browse through 5 to 10 different things to look at. So I think the jury's out on that.
Agreed. All right. Well, we're coming into rapid fire. So these are a few questions. I'm just going to shoot them out to you, and you can just, off the top of your head, give me your best answer. You're ready to go? Rapid fire.
Sure.
All right. What is the most overused AI term right now?
Agentic.
Yes. I love it. 100%. What is one e-commerce task that you would automate immediately if given the opportunity?
For the large brands, because discoverability is a huge challenge, I would say content optimization.
Yeah. Love that. What's the most underrated requirement for a successful AI deployment?
Data.
Nice, good, clean data, and all of it. Going back to your the legal requirements, right?
Exactly.
Like make sure you got full 360-degree view of everything that could be a stakeholder. Because you think about stakeholders when you make business cases, right? But I think you have to think about stakeholdership in AI as well, and the data sets you bring to the table. Because you're gonna have different quote unquote virtual stakeholders that are defining that context.
One of the interesting things, by the way, just people always think of AI as a tool. I think you are well served to think of it as almost an extension of your brain or the company's or brand's brain.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yep. 100%.
That opens up possibilities of how you can use the AI more effectively in your organization to drive business decisions and value.
Love it. What last one? What's one question every operator should ask an AI vendor before signing a contract?
What are your terms of a pilot?
There you go. Nailed it.
Because I've been on the other side. There are so many AI vendors out there. And to make a decision is hard. So you need a pilot. But at the same time, I also understand I can only do so many pilots. So I would say a customer reference and a pilot.
Love it. Love it. Very cool. So, Sai, where should people go to learn more about you and the work that Commerce IQ is doing?
If you're interested to learn more, you can reach out to me at sai.k@commerceiq.ai, or you can go to our website, commerceiq.ai.
Awesome. Well, this has been a really great conversation. I appreciated your insight. I mean, there's so much to unpack. And AI is moving so fast, and it's really cool to talk to somebody who's sort of at the forefront of helping brands sort of execute this at a really high level. So, Sai, thanks for joining me on Beyond the Cart.
Carl, thank you so much. I enjoyed the conversation.
Hey, one more thing before we wrap. I run something called Operator Sprint. It's the first time you're hearing about it because we're just rolling it out, but it's 8 weeks live for Shopify operators doing between 25 and about 200,000 a month who have already bought courses, gone through trainings, read frameworks, trying to use, ChatGPT or something to figure it out, but still haven't installed any or all of it. And that's the actual problem that I keep running into with clients. And even in my own business, it's like information is the commodity, installation is the product. So the sprint isn't a course and it's not a mastermind. It's in 8 weeks, 8 live calls. It's probably going to be a few more of them in there as well. But then you ship one deliverable every single week. And at the end, you're holding your CEO dashboard for your business and a before and after scorecard on what actually has changed. And the guarantee that I give is if you do the pre-work and you show up for at least 6 of the 8 calls and you turn in those deliverables at the end of 8 weeks, you don't have the artifacts in hand, you don't have that deliverability, that value, I'll refund you in full and you keep everything that you built. So if that sounds interest to you, the operator sprint is 10 seats or less, and that's the delivery cap. It's not a marketing one, because above 10, I just can't work as closely with the folks that I want to work with for that. So if that's something that is interesting to you and that's the situation you're in, you can go to omnirocket.com/sprint and book a 30-minute fit check call. This is not a sales call. If you're not a right fit, I'll tell you directly on the call, and I'll try and point you to something even better that'll be more appropriate for where you're at. And also, if you know anyone who might be a fit, you send them my way and let me know that you sent them, and I'd highly appreciate it. Again, that's omnirocket.com/sprint. And thanks for listening to Beyond the Cart. And until next time, keep testing, keep learning, and keep building a better e-commerce business.